Good afternoon, brother, teacher Lau and brother and sisters. Today is 28th of September 2025, YMBA Diploma Assignment 4, which is Chapter 4. So the title is Explain the concept of purity, Visuddhi, and specify the objective of purities. So as an introduction, in the Buddha Dhamma practice, the general practice is dana, sila, samadhi, and panya. Its purpose is to reduce and eradicate the bodily and verbal unwholesome deeds, and the mind from unwholesome thoughts and defilements. Cultivating and developing wholesome deeds and mental states, and culminating in the realization of the unconditioned nibbana and the total eradication of all deformities. This process is called purification, in Pali Visuddhi. So literally Visuddhi with the root Sut means brightness, splendor, excellency. While in the ethical sense, it means purity, holiness of virtue. Visuddhati, which is comprising of Vit, Sut, and Va, means becomes clean or pure, as in Sujati. Therefore, the path of a Buddhist starts with one, changing one's unwholesome habits and characters to a wholesome set. For this, one needs to understand and know what is good and what is bad, and is willing to change and replace the bad or unwholesome to the wholesome states of mind. Gradually upgrade to higher mental cultivation of samadhi, concentration, and panya, wisdom, and finally the ultimate goal of realization of nibbana. So let's go into the purity, the Visuddhi. So in MM24, Rata Vinita Sutta, in English is Relay of Chariots, the discourse on the relay of chariots, as well as in Visuddhi Magga, the path of purification. It is listed 7 consecutive and supporting stages of purification, starting from the base of sila, virtue, right up to the knowledge and vision, which is the panya, the ultimate goal of realization of nibbana. So these 7 stages, in summary, are 1. Sila Visuddhi, Chitta Visuddhi, Ditthi Visuddhi, 4. Kanka Vitarana Visuddhi, 5. Magga Amagga Jnana Dasana Visuddhi, 6 is Patipada Jnana Dasana Visuddhi, 7 is Jnana Dasana Visuddhi. So let's go into further details of these 7 stages of Visuddhi. So the first one is Sila Visuddhi, or the purity of virtue, morality, or conduct, depending on the translator. The concept of purity of virtue is to maintain ethical and wholesome behavior. This serves as the foundation, the base, for all higher mental as well as spiritual development. The objective or the purpose is to gradually improve and purify one's conducts, namely reducing and eradication of one's bad or unwholesome actions and habits. For example, by following the precepts for lay followers or the Vinaya rules for monastics. And secondly, to support the cultivation and development of the good and virtuous as well as wholesome actions and habits. That means from unwholesome habits to wholesome habits. So the second Visuddhi is the Chitta Visuddhi, or the purity of the mind. The concept of purity of the mind is to achieve positive stable mind, and mental composure or samadhi. This becomes the base for higher mental cultivation and mental development. So the objective is to build up mindfulness, sati, and clear awareness, sampajana, while suppressing the mental hindrances, especially the five hindrances, pancha nivarana, that hinders one's mental stability and focus on the object, so that one could attain and enter into absorption or jhana. So coupled with the first purity, the purity of virtue, so with this purity of mind, one gradually reduces the mental states of greed, ill will, regret and remorse, jealousy and stinginess, and increases the wholesomeness of the mind. For example, the four Brahma Vihara. So the third stage is Dhiti Visuddhi, purity of view. The concept of purity of view is to understand Namarupa, mind and matter, or the five khandhas. Thus, one will be able to overcome the wrong view of or about the self. That means there's an everlasting, permanent self, atta. So the objective is to understand and see or realize that this human body is made up of five aggregates, the Panchakanda or Namarupa, which are always changing with the changing conditions, both internal as well as external. That means within the body as well as outside the body. And there is no permanent one or self that can control it. This will help one to realize that there is the view of I, my, and myself. It's not there in reality. Though one use these terms, which is very familiar and conventionally used terms as well as meaning, is frequently used in our daily life. But these are conventional terms and meanings only. Consequently, through this Dhiti Visuddhi, one will be able to purify and overcome one's wrong view of a self, a soul, or a permanent controlling entity. One needs to practice and meditate. And this, from here onwards, I think there is needs to meditate, to understand the mind, especially on the four mental aggregates. That is the feeling aggregates, the perception aggregates, the formation aggregate, as well as the mind aggregates. To realize and understand them, that there is no self. Let's go into the fourth Visuddhi, Kanka Vitarana Visuddhi, the purity of overcoming doubts. The concept of purity of overcoming doubt is the understanding of causal relation, the cause and the effect, as well as the dependent origination, paticca samuppada. The objective is, especially through meditation, to gradually see and understand that, for example, A arises when B is present, and A ceases when B ceases or absent. Understanding that every phenomenon arises because the right conditions are present also helps to strengthen the purity of view that there is no self or permanent soul, which is the third Visuddhi. So the fifth Visuddhi is Magga, Amagga, Jnana, Dasana Visuddhi, or the purity of knowledge and vision of path and not path. The concept of purity of knowledge and vision of path and not path is to know or to be able to differentiate what is the right path and what is not the right path. This is another critical juncture in one's spiritual development as well as the wisdom development. The objective is to be able to distinguish the right path from the wrong path or the practice. At this point, one, that is the meditator, should be able to comprehend the sankhara or the formation from the perspective of the three characteristics, that is the tilakkhana, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, that is the impermanence, dissatisfaction, as well as the non-self. However, if one is not discerning, that is, the meditator is not discerning, one might fall into the belief that these 10 imperfections of sights, of insights, that is, which is called upakilesa, as the ultimate goal of Nibbana, and stop there. Because one tends to attach to this pleasant, refined, subtle states. It is very pleasant at this point, and that's the reason why, without proper discernment, the yogi get attached to it and stop at it. Thus, it is crucial for the meditator to continue on and not caught up with these states, which are also anicca. It arises and disappears. The sixth stage is the Patipada Jnana Dasana Visuddhi, the purity of knowledge and vision of progress. The concept of purity of knowledge and vision of progress is the understanding of the way or the path or the practice towards the realization of Nibbana. That means we know exactly the path towards the Nibbana. The objective is to know and understand the gradual progress to the development of insight knowledges through insight meditation, that is the vipassana bhavana. So according to Abhidhammata Sangaha, which is the comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi, this purity comprises of a succession of 8 spatial or insight knowledges called vipassana jnana. So in brief, these 8 successive knowledges are knowledge of rise and fall, that means the phenomenal rise and then it falls. Then the knowledge of dissolution, that means the emphasis is on the dissolution of the phenomenal. Then the knowledge of the fearfulness. Because of the dissolution, the rise and the fall, there is a fear of not being able to hold on, which is the usual human response. And the knowledge of danger, the danger that if you hold on to it, then one is not able to control it. So there is this danger of it. And because of those knowledges, one will be able to have a knowledge of disenchantment. That means you give it up. There is no point holding on to all this. And because of that, knowledge of desire for deliverance, the desire for liberation, what pushes one to be able to attain the 7th knowledge, which is the knowledge of reflective contemplation. That means by contemplating those phenomena, then gradually once come to the stage of knowledge of equanimity towards formation. That means once will be in a balanced state towards whatever the formation is. And that knowledge helps one to come down and move on to the 7th stage. But before you reach to the 7th stage, to the 7th stage, yes, there is this knowledge of conformity called anuloma jnana. And this knowledge of conformity is to adapt or conform the preceding knowledges that is the mundane knowledges to the supramundane path. Which is the 7th Visuddhi. So now we comes to the 7th Visuddhi, which is the Jnana Dasana Visuddhi, the purity of knowledge and vision. The concept of purity of knowledge and vision is the attainment of Nibbana and final liberation. It is associated with the four suprabandhe path consciousness, that is the Lokuttara Magga Chitta. The objective of this purity is the arising of maturity knowledge or change of lineage knowledge called Gotrabhu Jnana, which takes Nibbana, the unconditioned, as its object, thus transcending the rank of the worldling Puthujjana and enters into the rank of the noble ones, Arya. So immediately after Gotrabhu, the first path consciousness, Sottapatti Magga Citta, arises, thus destroying 3 out of the 10 fetters or Sambhujjana. And this will continue on, this process will continue on until all the 10 fetters are totally eradicated. When the fourth path consciousness, that is the Arahata Magga Citta, arises. Thus, the purity of knowledge and vision is the knowledge of the 4 paths, the Magga, culminate in the attainment of final deliverance, Arahant, as mentioned in the Ratha Vinita Sutta. So in conclusion, the concept of practice and purity in Buddhism is the gradual cleansing, purification, and the purity of the body and mind, until the final purity when one attains Arahant. It is a gradual, systematic, and successive progression. From transforming the action, habit, and characters, which is sila, to the purification of the mind, bhavana, from unwholesome to wholesomeness, until the attainment of unconditioned nibbana, which is also the complete purity, where the mind is free from greed, hatred, and delusion. However, the duration or the speed depends on the individual capabilities, the wisdoms, the effort put in, the skills that one has cultivated, and the conditions. Some may take a short period, like the young Yasa and his 54 friends. Others may take many lifetimes. That's the end. Thank you.
Okay, good word. Pretty in-depth. I share my one, a simple one. So you look at mine. So any question? The rest of people?
No.
So Brother Lau, you want to share yours now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same question, I think so. Same question, I think it's the same question. I'm not. Okay.
Yeah, same question. Yes.
So, introduction, you introduce the concept of what Visuddhi mean. It's not a vague but systematic, practical, and profound process of mental purification. So, as your brother said, Visuddhi means purification, cleansing or cleanliness. So, it's derived from the root sut and the prefix vid and the distinction intensity. So, purity is not about soul becoming pure, unlike other samana, adhering to external ritualistic purity, the very people doing that. And the divine grace washing away sins. Like the Vedic, deep in the Ganges River, you clear all your sin. Instead, Visuddhi is a gradual, casual, systematic process of eradicating mental defilement that obscure the true nature reality as undergoing the condition that causes suffering. So most authoritative Theravada texts on the subject of Visuddhi Magga by the 5th century by this Buddhaghosa, it details the following entire path. Part 1, problem, impurities, Kalisa. To understand purity, we must understand what makes the mind impure. The fundamental impurity in Theravada are kilesa or defilement, or asava, taints or cankers. So primary defilement known as the three unwholesome root. These are the cause. They are the loba, greed, craving, attachment, dosa, aversion, hatred, ill will, moha, delusion, ignorance. This root branch out into a mere detail of 10 defilements, but all impurities stem from this thread. They are called roots because they are the cause of all unwholesome action of body, speech, and mind, which in turn lead to suffering and continued existence in samsara. The asava are the deepest and most ingrained things that flow out of mind and perpetual existence. You know, sense, desire, becoming, desire for continued existence. I mean, you wish for another life in the other realm. Ignorant, and sometimes we got wrong view. Diti, sava. The objective of power is to utterly destroy this defilement at their root. So what is the objective of the purities? The ultimate objective of purifying Visuddhi is Nibbana, the unconditioned cessation, suffering, and end of defilement, and liberated from the cycle of birth and death. However, this ultimate goal is achieved through a series of intermediate objectives, which are the fruits of the progressive state of purification. First is to eradicate suffering, dukkha. Since suffering arises from craving, and purify the mind, craving is the direct path to cessation, especially spoken in the third noble truth. And to develop direct knowledge and vision. A purified mind can see things as they really are. This is not the intellectual knowledge, but direct experiential insight into three characteristics of existence. Anicca, seeing the constant rapid changes and passing away of all conditioned phenomena. Dukkha, seeing that nothing conditioned and can provide lasting satisfactionness. And then anatta, seeing that no permanent, independent, controlling self or soul can be found in any experience. This is the pivotal insight of Theravada. Third is to achieve mental mastery and freedom. A purified mind that is not a slave to its desire and aversion is characterized by equanimity, upekkha, balance amidst the eight worldly winds. And then the divine abiding, Brahma Viharas. Your brother spoke earlier, unconditional loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity. Fearlessness, freedom from the fear of death and loss and unknown. Okay, then next we go to the seven stages of purification. Brother already stated there. So I put in this table. Visuddhi Magga outline the path as sequence of 7 purification. They are not separated but interlinked progressively. Mastery one leads to nature to the next. Okay, Sila Visuddhi, purification of conduct. And now I go through. You read through yourself. Citta Visuddhi, purification of mind. Ditthi Visuddhi, purification of view. Kankavitaran Visuddhi, purification of overcoming doubt. Then Magga Nana Dasana Visuddhi, purification of knowledge and vision of what is path and not path. And Patipada Nirnana Sana Visuddhi, purification of knowledge and the vision of path of the way. And finally, the Nana Dasa Visuddhi, purification of knowledge and vision. Okay, so you read through yourself. Your brother already give you full detail of it. So summary conclusion, according to Theravada, Visuddhi is the entire path from the start to finish. It became ethical purification of one action. It progressed to the mental purification of concentration. Then it accumulates the wisdom purification of insight, which dismantles the illusion of self and serve the roots of all suffering. The objective is not to become a pure being, but to purify the pure mind of defilement. And that prevent the realization that there is no being to become pure, only the impersonal condition process of mind and matter, for natural law. The final purity is standards, unconditioned state of Nibbana, and the ultimate safety and law of suffering. Okay, this is my simple one. So, Brother Ko do very well. So, I say to you now. Okay, everybody, any question? Simple one. Okay, five pages only.
Brother Lau,
Yeah.
generally, I thought initially also I thought to approach the question and the answer through this way. That means, based on my understanding,
Oh, you want
But
very comprehensive, ah?
how? Yeah, but then how do you link up with the chapter 4? Because the
I never really
it's just
follow
the
exactly there. So you give a detail one, ah.
that's what. Oh, but
So
then
your
if
one
you were
is
to follow like this,
no need lah.
it's
You
very
you
long.
you just put on to whatever you missing here, add in, it should be sufficient, ah.
Oh,
Whatever
okay.
missing from your side.
Because this is
Your one very detailed one. Sure get
because
20 mark one.
but, uh, okay.
Mine is simple. I got no time to
Mm.
think so much. Lazy burger. Just for
Yeah, but
presentation.
this way of presentation of your essays is easier to understand the the flow, but not so much about the technical one. But when
Yeah.
I wrote the way I wrote, it's very technical. So sometimes it's not so easy unless someone has learned and studied about it.
Whatever way lah. So as long as John, you can produce
Okay.
that sufficient. 20 mark lah. Your one guarantee you 20 mark. If you can reproduce this whole thing out.
It's quite difficult to
Yeah.
memorize and write.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Exam don't
but
know
okay
got
lah.
time.
Yeah, too long also. Mm.
So you
Okay.
see what you can do lah. You can use this as add on to it, then you improve on it. But my one
Okay.
not
Thank you.
comprehensive. Just simple. I lazy also cannot understand too much. My now memory also getting poorer and poorer.
Yeah.
Okay, I share your, then you all go and see what you can do about it. Okay,
Thank you.
sure come out one lah. If you can do this 20 mark your one. Okay, right.
Okay, I will start with my question 2. Explain the 4 components of the purity of morality, which is in Pali term Sila Visuddhi. As introduction, Sila can refer to the nature, habit, or character of a person in broad sense. Oh, sorry. As a virtue, moral quality, or ethical aptitude of the agent according to the Buddhist doctrine. And finally, in a more particularized way, as a stage or part of the practice in the Buddhist path. Sila, in the case of layman, it entails the daily observance of the 5 precepts for the householder, the 8 precepts for devoted householder, and on the special day of observance, which is Uposatha. It is in the form of 10 precepts for a novice monk and the full monastic code of discipline, Patimokkha, consisting of 227 rules for the monks and 311 for the nuns. A meditator or trainee going forth into the state of homelessness has the ultimate goal of detaching from the sensual desires and grasping of the worldly things. He will have to undergo successive learning and practice until the point of realization where morality is the foundation of purification. This path of purification involves the gradual cutting off of impediments that bind him to the mundane world. Purification of virtue or sila Visuddhi implies the purity obtained through the abstinence from bodily and verbal misconduct, as well as from wrong livelihood. So there are 3 kinds of virtue or habit: the profitable or wholesome kusala sila, unprofitable or unwholesome kusala sila, and indeterminate sila, which is neither kusala nor kusala. Abstention from akusala karma is sila. Abstaining from the 10 akusala karma vata, such as killing, stealing, lying, and restraint from performing other verbal or bodily misconduct is sila. Apart from abstaining from evil, observing of what is wholesome that is complying to the Dhamma is also sila. Normally, A meditator of trainee protects his virtue impelled by conscience and shame, which is hiri and ottappa, which are the proximate causes. If he had committed wrongdoing, he has always a fear that others will find fault, bring shame, or take revenge. When the meditator observes his precepts, he purifies his morality and thus feel no regrets or non-remorse. His mind is calm and produces the joy inherent in the Dhamma, experiencing bodily and mental pleasure, and he's able to focus and concentrate his mind. As a result, he understands the truth and obtain deliverance, tasting the fruit of retribution of deliverance, and firmly walk on the path leading to Nibbana. Hence, the purity of morality is the premeditative and fundamental steps in the 7 stages of purification. The purification of morality, Sila Visuddhi, consists of the fourfold purity of morality, which is the higher training of ethical conduct. Namely, 1. The ethical conduct of restraint according to the disciplinary code on Vinaya, Patimokkha, Sangvara Sila. Second, restraint of the sense faculty, Indriya Sangvara Silang. Third, purity of livelihood, Ajiva Parisuddhi Silang. Fourth, proper use of the 4 requisites, Pachaya Sanisita Silang. So we go into one by one. The first one being restraint according to Patimokkha, which is Patimokkha Sangvara Silang. The Buddhist monk and nuns are bound by fundamental monastic disciplinary rules, Patimokkha, in restraining their behavior. Through saddha or faith, they perfected the sila by refraining from which is forbidden and to practice according to what is specified, to diligently follow in all of the training rules. One who has heard much and remember what he learned, reserve the knowledge, having initial energy for abandoning unwholesome states of mind and attaining wholesome states of mind. Being mindful and recall what is said and done for long ago. Being wise means being aware of the arising and passing away of all phenomena. One will dutifully set the wholesome volition and act out as such. Firstly, one observes the precepts by abstinence from performing the 3 evil bodily actions, which is kaya, ducharita, namely killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Second, adherence to the precepts by restraining from committing the 4 evil verbal actions, which is vachi, ducharita, such as lying, slandering, harsh speech, and divisive speech. Third one, refrain from other misdeeds that might destroy the harmony and welfare within the monastic community, as well as affecting the harmonious relationship between the monastic and the lay devotees. The observance of the 5 or 8 precepts is considered to be adequate for a lay person to be virtuous, whereas a bhikkhu must act according to the ways of a bhikkhu necessary to practice insight meditation. The second one, restraint of sense faculty, Indriya Sangvara Sila. The ethical conduct of refraining the senses involves practicing the mindfulness and introspective awareness to avoid attachment to the attractive objects and aversion towards unattractive ones. Generally, the restraint of senses, in Pali, Indriya Sangvara Sila, is accomplished by guarding over the mind so that as not to let unskillful conditions such as like, dislike, attachment, or aversion overwhelm it when it's experiencing any of the 6 kinds of sense impression such as sight, sound, smell, taste, sensation in the body, or thought in the mind. This kind of sila is perfected through sati, mindfulness of recollection. One does not allow the mind to come under the sway of attraction towards pleasant objects and repulsion towards unpleasant objects. Therefore, the practitioner must endeavor to restrain his sensory and mental faculties and avoid instinctive reaction that may lead to the emergence of unwholesome states. For the meditator, it's instructed to guard the sixth sense door without allowing defilements to arise, that is, not to grasp, meaning to become involved with, to cherish, to be invested, and even make judgment about neither the major signs nor the subtler details of any particular meditative object, but instead he guards the sixth sense from internal and external stimuli until he reaches a sufficient level to control over them. In this case, just simply becoming aware of one's greed can often help one to curb it. One starts practicing a more basic level of awareness called mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati sampajanya, and this transition stage signifies the initial process of active awareness after gaining moderate control over the reaction of the senses to external stimuli. This is the effort and commitment to carry on with a continuous process of taming the mind. The third one being the purity of livelihood, Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila. There are two kinds of Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila, namely Sila for layfolk and Sila for Sangha. Tension from the three Kaya to Charita and the four Pachi to Charita comprises the Ajiva Tamaka Sila for layfolk, the Atanka Upasato Sila, and the Dasanga Sila or 10 precepts, a Sila that will refine and polish the Ajiva Tamaka Sila. Whereas for Ajiva Parisuddhi Sila deals with the manner in which a bhikkhu acquires the necessities of life. He should not acquire his requisite in a manner unbecoming of a monk who is dedicated to purity and honesty. Abiding the ethical conduct of pure livelihood means to achieve the four requisites in the honest and non-harmful ways, such as to avoid the following. Firstly, by scheming, including indirectly inducing gains through deception, trickery, or magic, by creating a favorable or highly admirable impression of oneself on the lay supporters, such as lying or claim to have achieved higher spiritual states, hinting at being an arahant, bragging about superhuman attainments such as meditation accomplishment in stages of enlightenment, putting on a display of austerity to impress people, give offerings. Second, belittling the lay people for their alleged close-fistedness, refraining from extortion, such as threatening them or bullying them into making offerings. Third one, hinting, giving a sign, inducing a benefit to get the householder to make offerings by hinting at a suitable occasion for making offerings, as well as involving in livelihood such as fortune teller or soothsayer. Fourth, pursuing gains with gain, going in search of gain, and through gaining profit, one desire conquest, not bartering with them, such as giving something little and expecting much in exchange by giving gifts to lay supporters with expectation of receiving their offerings. For the fifth one, indirect persuasion of gain by flattery, ingratiating, fawning or sweet-talking supporters, or extolling the lay supporters, and finally asked to be served with refined food while not being sick. Fourth one, proper use of the requisite, Pacaya Sanisita Silam. The ethical conduct of proper use of requisite means the bhikkhu should use the four requisites after reflecting upon their proper purposes. The monk develops the quality of contentment regarding the four requisites. namely the robes necessary for protection and modesty. He should reflect wisely or virtue concerning requisites that he uses the ropes only for protection from cold, heat, contact with gadflies, flies, wind, burning, and creeping things, and only the purpose of concealing the private parts. As for food received in the arm bowl, using them either for is neither for amusement and intoxication, nor for the sake of physical beauty and attractiveness, but only for the endurance and continuance of the body, for ending discomfort, and for assisting the holy life. Third, dwelling place is just to live and rest. And finally, the medicine is consuming the essential medicines to ward off pain and illness so as to maintain health. This purification is aimed at developing non-attachment to material gains and cultivate the gratitude towards the donor and sincerely dedicating marriage to the donor's welfare. As conclusion, the concept of sila refers to the dynamic range of practice and functions, predominantly as a practice of restraint, which is most commonly perceived as a type of physical and verbal constraint, such as sama vacha, sama kamanta, and sama ajiva. Sila Visuddhi, which is the purification of virtue, is considered to be the pre-meditative practice, that is, the preceding Lokiya Visuddhi, mundane purification, and is an integral part of the progress towards samadhi. Through sense restraint, mindfulness, and clear comprehension and contentment, which are part of the transitional state that gradually habituates the mind towards the meditative space, in which it acquires wholesome tendencies that qualify the monk to enter deep level of concentration. Self-control and disciplined behavior that perfect the higher morality of disciplining the mind. Based on the right view, one develops wholesome volition guarding his course of action. It assists the mind to develop four foundations of mindfulness, and the mind becomes purified. It becomes calm, serene, tranquil, happy, and able to concentrate on the object of meditation. It enables the meditator and attains the purification of mind, that is Citta Visuddhi, the second stage of purification, and paves the way to the subsequent stages of purification. That's all for the question number 2. And these are the reference made.
Okay, good. Very comprehensive. So you should answer this way. Any question for the rest of people or add in any more thing? Very comprehensive. Okay. You can remember all that. Good. 20 marks.
Shall I continue with question number 4?
Okay, up to you.
Okay. Question number 4. Explain a given state of purity, Satta Visuddhi. So, this introduction, the path of practice leading to attainment, Nibbana, unfolds in 7 stages, known as the 7 stages of purification, Satta Visuddhi. Each purification is needed to attain the next, and the 7 in order are as follows. So, I would like to talk about Citta Visuddhi, which is purification of mind, which is the purification pertaining to samadhi. Citta Visuddhi, or purification of mind, is the higher training of concentration, making the mind still and resolute, either in the state of momentary concentration, or excess concentration, or jhana, or in other words, full absorption concentration. It enables a meditator to focus on the meditative subject and not distracted by irrelevant sensual excitement or nor phenomena. But being able to subdue and suppress the 5 hindrances, namely sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worries, and skeptical doubt. Here, the meditator attains excess concentration or jhana and uses it as the basis for generating insight. As he emerge from absorption, analyze the factors of the absorption in terms of the 5 aggregates. He understands their condition, examines their nature, and sees that they are marked by the 3 characteristics of existence, which is anicca, dukkha, anatta. It is the second stage of the 7 stages of purification, and the goal is to prepare for and reach the next stage of purification of view and progressively attaining the ultimate goal of attaining the nibbanic bliss. As long as meditator's mind is not yet fully purified, wandering thoughts are risen by his thinking of objects of sense, desire, etc., that will appear intermittently between thoughts and noticing the objects of meditation. And these wandering minds are called hindering thoughts. The meditator tries to develop an unhindered mind to notice meditative object until this act of noticing will proceed without break. This uninterrupted succession of the concentration of mind directed to the meditative object that lasts for a moment is called the purification of mind. Concentration may be trained and developed by adopting the following strategies of practice. Firstly, choose and adopt a suitable subject of meditation with regards to individual temperament. Second, overcome the 10 impediments. Third, associate with good friends and a wise teacher for guidance. Fourth, find a suitable environment for meditation. And fifth, put in the right effort to sustain the mental cultivation process. So generally, when we talk about adopting a suitable meditation of subject for the individual temperament, so there are 40 meditative subjects, namely the 10 kasinas, contemplation of the 10 kinds of foulness, the 10 kinds of recollection, the 4 sublime states, the 4 immaterial states, 1 perception, and 1 finding. Personal temperament may be grouped into 6 categories, that is greed or lustful character, hateful, illusion, intellectual, and speculative. So I have the table that draw out the pairing of the relevant meditative objects as follows. Under proper guidance, if a meditator put in the right effort and persistent practice meditation, he may be able to progress and attain the 4 jhanas and the 4 arupa jhanas together with neighborhood concentration, upachara samadhi. So this is just a note for myself. So the second one, overcoming the 10 impediments. The meditator has to give undivided attention to the meditation practice to attain good results. For this purpose, he has to keep in his mind entirely free from other affairs which could distract it or disturb it. So these 10 impediments refers to the attachment to the dwelling place or abode. Second, frequent or close association with family. 3, spending excessive time and effort to gain or acquire requisites. 4th, this is directed to a religious teacher who becomes too involved in teaching the class of group of students that he is depriving of his time for own study and practice. The 5th one, long hours to carrying out construction works that may distract one from practicing. The 5th, traveling and the excessive planning about the journey. 7, taking care or nursing the sickly relative or kin or blood relation. 8, infected or inflicted with lingering or chronic diseases. Number 9, too busy engaging in spiritual studies. And then finally, temptation to attain miraculous power through meditation. The 3rd one, associate with good friends, kalyamita, and wise teachers, charya, for guidance. Association with good or wise is important as they will support us in doing good and deter us from going astray. Approach the good friends with good virtues who is revered and dearly loved by others, well conducted in verbal and bodily actions, and keen in pursuing the spiritual progress. At the same time, meeting a wise spiritual guide or competent teachers who can give comprehensive instruction on the Dhamma and able to suggest a suitable meditation or subject. The meditator should go to one of the following persons in their descending orders. The best one will be an arahant. Second, a non-returner. Then, if the both mentioned are not available, go to the third, a non-returner. Otherwise, a stream enterer. Then, a whirling who practices jhana, or master of 3 collections of the scriptures. If not found, then a master of 2 collections. Even if that is not available, a master of 1 collection, or even worse, but still available, a master of 1 session of a scripture with its commentary, and lastly, conscientious teacher who has cultivated self-control. Fourth, find a suitable place for meditation, which is neither too far from or not too close to an alms resort, which is also easy to access. It should be not crowded by day, but quiet at night. Not exposed to mosquito, serpent, strong winds, and sun. Easy to obtain the 4 requisites, and there are learned and well-disciplined elderly monks whom the meditator may approach from time to time for instruction. So as conclusion, purification of mind, Satta Visuddhi, is the endeavor to purge the mind of the hindrances by means of ecstasis attained through tranquility meditation. It is an intermediate state of the path to Ceto Vimutti, which is the emancipation of the mind in the highest sense. By cleansing the mind from detachment, aversion, inertia, restlessness, and conflict, and from securing it from the influx, one may attain the liberation from all passions, sense pleasure, continued existence, ignorance, and complemented by Panya Vimutti, liberation attained by insight that represent the fruit of arahatship. An intelligent and keen meditator may be able to achieve the 8 attainments, 4 jhanas, 4 arupa jhanas, together with neighborhood concentration. It paves the way to attainment of the subsequent stages, Ditti Visuddhi, or the purification view, which is the correct understanding of non-self, etc., along the path of emancipation. So that's all for question number 4.
Okay, thank you, sister. Well done. Pretty comprehensive and plenty to remember. Okay, so any feedback from the rest? If no, this should be one of a sample answer. Pretty comprehensive. Anybody? No comment? We'll go to the
Not
next
pretty comprehensive, very comprehensive.
question. Sister, so worried.
I take it as assignment to help myself to understand the whole thing. So in the exam, then I just give brief outline which I can remember.
I think the sequence is good.
Shall we continue with Brother Lau? Brother.
Okay.
Yeah, I think something wrong with my laptop.
Okay, never mind. I share my copy.
click the
You slowly try.
I think you proceed with yours first.
Okay, I share my copy to you. Okay. The question is discuss how morality, consisting of purity of livelihood, may practice by the bhikkhu or the household, right? Something like that. Okay. So first thing, we understand what's the foundation understanding. What is avijja parisuddhi sila? Before we discussing, we define the term. Jiva means livelihood or way of life. Then parisuddhi means purification or purity. Then sila means morality or virtuous conduct. So Jiva Parisuddhi Sila is a volitional commitment to earn one's living in a way that is honest, harmless, and free from deceit, exploitation, or any activity that will cause suffering to oneself or others. It's not just about what you do for a living, but how you do it and the intention and the means. This precept was intrinsically linked to other 4 precepts of the Panchasila. So the basic 5 precepts for lay people. A wrong livelihood invariably involves breaking this precept, such as a weapon dealer, facilitate killing, a fraudster lies and steal, a bartender deal in intoxicant. So we look practiced by bhikkhu. For bhikkhu, livelihood is strictly regulated by Vinaya. The monastic code, the idea is to live a life of simplicity, dependent, transforming the act of receiving alms into a spiritual practice. So monks have very little needs. Okay, if monks have plenty of needs, problematic. So the pami means arms round, pinipata. This quintessential symbol of bhikkhu pure livelihood is going on arms round. This practice is designed to cultivate essential qualities. This applies to Theravada monk. First, they are non-greed, aloba. The bhikkhu eats what is offered and without preference or demand. He cultivates contentment with whatever he receives. Humility, by asking for food, the bhikkhu sheds pride and develops a sense of interdependence with lay community. So Theravada practice is not a shame. Yes, it's a practice for your kind of upright. Okay? Shed your pride. And trust in Dhamma. He relies not only on personal wealth or skill, but on the generosity generated by virtuous life and teachings or he embodies. I mean, he just not just take free. At the end of every arms round, he need to deliver a Dhamma. So this is from our Buddhist teaching. The other one, prohibited livelihood for bhikkhu. As in Vinaya, the Buddha explicitly forbade certain means of subsistence for monastics to prevent any compromise in their purity. This includes your sister said earlier and your brother, divination and fortune telling, using superstitions to gain material support. Astrology, making prediction about luck, fate, or worldly affairs. Perform miracle or psychic feats to impress lay people. Chanting protective verses, parita, for material gain rather than as a blessing. Acting as a messenger to go between for lay people affairs. And petty medicine for reward to caring for fellow monastic is encouraged. Not for other means is wrong. Engaging in any form of business or trade. So I'm quite upset, especially in Bangkok. I see most of monks are doing all these things. But some of my friends who follow the Thai style say this is modern monk, so a modern way. So I studied Vinaya. If a monk don't conduct himself as a Vinaya rules, he lose respect for me. I only respect his robe only. Other than that, he's nothing. He's no better than me. Okay. So third one is purity in receiving offering. Even within the arms round, purity must be maintained. A bhikkhu should not hint or ask for specific things. His practice is one of the silent acceptance. Okay. One thing I also observe in Singapore, and I don't say in Malaysia. Right? If a monk asks you, you give a dana, must go to this particular restaurant. Vegetarian very good. Then you better be careful. After giving one dana, that's bye-bye for me. I won't serve him anymore. Show undue favoritism to wealthy donors. This also happen in certain temple. So those are rich can give a lot. The monk will be special preference for them. Accumulate excessive requisite, robes, food, medicine, lodging. The middle way is key. Okay, monks, as according to Vinaya rules, 3 robes. You like it or don't like it, 3 robes only. right? So you have to be very careful, mindfully use the rope carefully. Your one rope washing, only one standby for next day. And then food, you cannot be selective, medicine and lodging. So in essence, Bhikkhu Avijja Parisuddhi Sila is about perfecting the receptive aspect of life. Its purity lies in the having no livelihood in the worldly sense, but in living as a field of merit for others, sustained by his faith and his own unwavering virtue. And we come to the householder. Practiced by householder. For a householder, the challenge is more complex. They must operate within the economic world, which often involves competition and acquisition. Therefore, the practice of pure livelihood is one of skillful means of constant mindfulness within that context. Okay, so not easy for a householder. The kind of life you lead, the kind of job you lead, is a defining what is livelihood is about for a pure person. So the negative definition, there are 5 types of wrong livelihood. Buddha explicitly advised by the layfolk to avoid these 5 types of business. Trading in weapons, directly contributing to harm and killing. Right? Like countries like US, Iran, and they supplying weapon to other countries at war. So this is a very wrong thing. So as long as human life is taken away, you're committing a crime. Right? So this is against humanity. Trading in human beings, it includes slavery or human trafficking and modern contact, exploitation or prostitution, including nowadays a new scam. They take you human parts, human organs for transplant. Trading in flesh. This refers to breeding animals for slaughter. While a layperson may eat meat if it's not seen, hurt, or suspected to be killed for them, making a living from slaughtering industry is considered wrong. So that's why if you are too Buddhist, should avoid doing with this trade. Trading intoxicant, selling alcohol, drugs, or other substance that causes illness. And trading poison, dealing in substance that mean to harm or kill, especially those who sell this insecticide, killing many creatures. And then the positive definition of what ethical and skillful. Beyond avoiding the prohibited trades, a householder should strive for a livelihood that is honest and non-deceptive, not engaging in fraud, false advertising, cheating, or exploiting customer ignorance. This is a practice of right speech, samavada, within one profession. Okay. Many years ago, I was a part-time housing agent. Okay, housing agent, nobody tell you the truth one. Everything is good. Okay, everything is perfect. Everything is nice. There's no thing that is bad. Okay, so if you honest housing agent, you won't make a living. So I feel bad. So I came out immediately. Harmless or ahimsa, choosing word that does not cause suffering to beings. Profession like ethical farming, teaching, healthcare, skilled trade, and arts or craft are traditionally seen as commendable, conducive to spiritual growth. A job that allows for mindfulness, ethical conduct, peace of mind, preferably to high-paying job that causes constant stress, ethical compromise, or propagates greed and aversion. So whatever kind of job, you want high pay, very stressful, okay? Or you want a job that is contented to you, it's up to you. And how versus the what? For householder, the purity of livelihood as extend the manner of work, diligent, being diligent and conscientious is one of the duties. Contentment, finding the balance between providing for one's family and being consumed by greed or more wealth. The Buddha placed knowing moderation in acquisition. So layman must have contentment. Generous use of wealth. A pure livelihood that is not an end on itself. The wealth itself earned righteous should be used for welfare of one's family, for sharing others, and for supporting the Sangha and Ati-Voti cause. This completes the cycle of purity. Wealth earned purely is used purely. the common ground, the psychology of pure livelihood. Whether monastic or lay people, ultimate goal of practicing avijja parisuddhi sila is the same to purify the mind. So when you do that, you get freedom from remorse, knowing one's livelihood is blameless and bring profound peace and freedom from guilt. So this peace becomes the foundation of concentration, recurring defilement. By refusing to engage in the wrong livelihood or the one that confronts and weakens greed, aversion, and delusion. For example, turning down a lucrative but unethical deal is a powerful act of overcoming greed. Then next one, integration with path. Pure livelihood supports and is supported by other factors of aid the full path as impossible. It's impossible to have right view while knowing engaging in harmful trade. So you must know what you're doing. So it's difficult to practice the right concentration if one mind is troubled by how one earns a living. So in summary, the practice of avijja parisuddhi sila is a profound application of Buddhist ethics tailored to one's situation in life. For bhikkhu, an ascetic practice radical dependence and simplicity, and there's a purity maintained by strictly renouncing worldly modes or acquisition. His life itself is a livelihood. For householder, it's a practice of engaged ethics within the world, making conscious, often difficult choice to ensure that the means of survival do not harm others or corrupt their own minds. So it's about bringing Dhamma into marketplace. So both paths to different inform lead to the same destination, a mind that is light, peaceful, capable of progressing towards liberation. The purity of one's livelihood is therefore not a mere social convention, but a vital step on the path to the end of suffering. Okay, that's all. Simple and short. I say it to you.
Okay. So this assignment 4, the question is, question 3, discuss how the morality consisting in the purity of livelihood, ajiva parisuddha sila, may be practiced by the bhikkhu and the householder. So in MN 24 and in Visuddhi Marga, it is listed 7 stages of purification, which guide and indicate the purity of the mind. These 7 stages are Sila Visuddhi all the way until Jnana Dasana Visuddhi. The preceding stage is required and will support the next stage of purification. Sila Visuddhi, purity of morality or virtues, is the fundamental virtue of Buddhist practice, including towards liberation. And in Sila Visuddhi, it is to maintain ethical behavior through following the precepts and is also the foundation for higher spiritual development. And there are 4 kinds of morality, namely the Patimokkha Samvara Sila, Indriya Samvara Sila, Jiva Parisuddha Sila, and the Pachaya Sanisita Sila. So let's go into the purity of livelihood, Jiva Parisuddha Sila. This purity of livelihood is one of the 4 kinds of purity of morality, and it is with regards to one's livelihood, subsistence, or occupation. Generally, it is to avoid wrong livelihood or that violates the precepts, and that will hinder one's well-being, mundane, as well as the spiritual path, including the supramundane. The degree of purity for bhikkhu and householder therefore do differ substantially because of their different goals. In Samyutta Nikaya 45.8, Vibhanga Sutta, there are definitions for each of the 8 paths of Noble Eightfold Path. In Vibhanga Sutta, right livelihood is not to do wrong livelihood. While in Majjhima Nikaya, Kandaraka Sutta, it shows the way for one, or that is the householder, on how from a lay life to homeless life, that is the monastic, by purifications of life, livelihood, to mental development and cultivation until the attainment of Arahant. So now let's look at the bhikkhu or the monastics. Bhikkhu, as one who has left the home for the homeless, should avoid and not involve in wrong livelihood. In the Sutta Anguttara Nikaya 4.50, Upakilesa Sutta, Buddha advised the monks to refrain from wrong or corrupt living and wrong livelihood, because these don't shine and glow nor radiate. And in the Sutta Samyutta Nikaya 45.8, Vibhanga Sutta, the monastic is to give up wrong livelihood and earn a living by right livelihood. In MN 117, Mahasatta Visuddhi Sutta, because wrong livelihood includes using unethical means like deceit, scheming, flattery, indirect evasion, hinting, belittling, disparaging, ill-bearing, or pursuing gain with gain. While the right livelihood refers to giving up of this wrong livelihood. So, wrong livelihoods like soothsaying, palmistry, fortune-telling, practicing medicine for profit, performing rituals for material gain, accepting money indirectly, etc., are regarded as wrong livelihood. So, bhikkhu is required to live simply with the 4 basic requisites of food, clothing, lodging, and medicine, and focus on their spiritual practice and cultivation. So the proper way for livelihood is to obtain the necessities by going for alms round, accept what is given freely and willingly. No hinting or suggesting or pressurizing the lay people for offerings or supports. As bhikkhu, one has to follow closely or strictly the prescribed Vinaya rules. For example, not storing food overnight, not taking or handling money, using only permitted requisites, and living with minimal possessions. And next, we go to the householder. And for householder, he needs to live and support his family. Thus, he needs to earn for his own upkeep and for the upkeep of his family. So householder should earn his wealth righteously and should avoid livelihood that leads to the breaking of the 5 precepts, namely to abstain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants that causes sleeplessness. So in Samyutta Nikaya 42.2, that is the Talaputta Sutta, Buddha strongly advised a dancing master called Talaputta, he's a householder, not to be involved in this wrong livelihood, which arouse or increase the people, or that is the audience or spectators, their greed, their hatred, or their delusion, as this will lead one, that is the performer, to be reborn in hell or animal realms. And in the Sutta Anguttara Nikaya 5.177, which is the Vanija Sutta, a lay follower or householder is to avoid, that is not to engage in livelihood that trades in weapons, human or living beings, meat, poison, and intoxicants. So wholesome livelihood is trade or occupation that encourages wholesome thoughts, deeds, and speech. So one practices ethical business if he's in business, like honesty, fair pricing, not exploitative, that means not even exploiting their employees and other stakeholders, as well as truthful communications. Thus, as in Anguttara Nikaya 8.54, that is the Digha Jano Sutta, as well as the DN 31 Sigala Sutta, householder could approach life in a balanced way, that is, earning wealth ethically and righteously, so that he could support his family and share the wealth with others, as well as for spiritual development, including himself, as well as to support those practicing spiritual So in conclusion, both the bhikkhu and householder should avoid wrong livelihood, especially those that involve in deception or causing harm to others, and instead practice honesty, living within one's means, be contented, live simply or easily supportable, especially for bhikkhu. As in AN 10.176, the Chunda Sutta, one should avoid doing the 10 unwholesome deeds, Sucharita, and instead do the 10 wholesome deeds, the Sucharita. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Very good. Try. And plenty of comprehensive thing inside. So anybody, any comment? No comment is acceptable answer. So basically what we're doing, not only benefit ourselves, but many who internet is now searching for resources, you'll come to here because many websites already very little, except the past year question also not really up to date. So basically all closed already. So probably they'll come to our YouTube to, especially those who study same level, will find beneficial. So you're doing a good job for sharing with many. Thank you.